Hey everyone, how's it going? Welcome to the channel. Dylan here. We have a major update today from Senator John Kennedy that you don't want to miss. He just came out and revealed the truth about everything going on right now, and he's calling out his Democratic colleagues in a massive way and exposing some of this corruption going on in California. And Senator John Kennedy rips violent anti-ICE protesters, my friends. Major arrests taking place. Let's listen in.
Welcome back. The Delaney Hall anti-ICE protests have no end in sight, and local leaders say this is the fault of ICE.
There were people out here for over a year without incident, without being thrown into the street, without being slammed to the ground, without tear gas and fires. None of that took place, which means people know how to peacefully protest. It was happening. I think it was escalated the minute ICE showed up on the scene. They created this kind of escalation that took place that we have not recovered from until last night.
See, ICE, the problem is your presence. That's what at least you hear on your television screen. Since the start of the mandatory nightly curfew, 61 arrests have been made. So do you really think it's ICE who's causing all the chaos?
We will say every time protesting is not a crime!
You push us where you want.
The police want ICE! The police want ICE!
Today, DHS Secretary Mullen was pressed on the threats from protesters during a Senate hearing.
Were some of the protesters or rioters violating the law?
Absolutely. Every time you verbally assault an officer by not saying that you're, whatever words you want to use, but when you say you're going to kill them and all their family, that's against the law. That's violating federal policy. When you put your hands on an officer, we had officers bit, we had officers scratched, we had officers poked, we had officers hit, we had objects thrown at them, we had car windows smashed in. All that is a federal crime and punishable, and we have zero tolerance for it.
Joining me now and fresh off that hearing is Louisiana Republican Senator and Senate Appropriations Committee member John Kennedy. Senator, it's good to see you here today. What did you learn about these protesters? I spoke to the Secretary yesterday, and one of the things that was fascinating is how many of these protesters aren't from New Jersey, that they've come in from across the country, like Portland.
Well, some of the protests are organic, but a lot of them are orchestrated and organized. Here's the issue. It's really not complicated. Unless you're industrial strength stupid, you know that illegal immigration is illegal. President Biden, no disrespect, but he couldn't play dead in a Western movie, just ignored the law. Now, I don't know whether it was his idea or I know some members of Congress, some Democrats encouraged him. And he let in, 8 million, 15 million, we don't know how many, 20 million people illegally. And Mark Wayne Mullen, the new secretary's got to clean all that up. Now, these protesters, there were some peaceful protesters at one point at Delaney Hall, but that's not what caused the ruckus. What caused the ruckus was just what the secretary said in the clip you just showed. You have the right to protest peacefully. You don't have the right to protest violently. You don't have the right to punch an ICE officer or scratch him or spit in his face or call him or threaten him or call his family's names. You don't have the right to block ingress or egress into a detention center. And these people want to get arrested because so many members of the media will rush and go, oh, look, ICE is violating people's civil rights. Here's some free advice, Will. ICE agents, cops, Border Patrol agents, most of them will leave you alone unless you do illegal stuff. And that's all this is about.
Senator.
So that's actually crazy because Democrats are blaming ICE, but then you have people on the right who are blaming the protesters. Look, I feel like, honestly, all of the, you can protest, that's totally fine, but when it starts getting violent, then that's when it's like, okay, what's going on here?
As you may or may not be aware, here at the end of the program of the Will Cain Show, we often have a little segment called Will of the People, where we hear from our viewers about various aspects. And we thought we'd do a little episode of Will of the People for you, Senator. You've got your new TikTok up, and we took a look at some of the comments, okay? And I wanted to share with you what some of your viewers, what of your TikTok fans have said. And here's one. Jennifer says, your staff needs a raise. They've got us all tuned in. There's also calls for you to take the stage as a comedian, Senator. Are you going to be giving your staff a raise? They're all listening.
When donkeys fly, okay? I stay within my budget and try to turn money back in. I've got a great staff. And you were nice, Will, to read the nice comments, not just the negative ones. I try not to look at all the comments or any of them. But every now and then my staff, they know if somebody says something really clever to bring it to me. One of the most clever comments I ever heard, not on my TikTok, was, Kennedy, I just watched your interview. You look just like my second wife. And I said, that is just an absolute great cut. But we're having fun with TikTok.
I appreciate that about you. I tell my staff the same. I say, bring me the negative comments as well. It keeps me humble, and it might just be true. So I could learn something every once in a while from a negative comment. So don't just give me the positive comments. I'll make this promise to you. Next time you're on, I'll bring you some negative comments. Is that a fair deal, Senator?
Bring me some negative comments, and I'll call them ignorant sluts. Go right back at them.
Senator Kennedy, good to see you. Thank you.
Thank you, mate.
Wow, guys, that is insane. And Senator John Kennedy, he just went scorched earth, annihilation mode on the Senate floor, saying, let's do the right thing. So let's tune in, my friends.
Mr. President, we both know that there are people in Washington who like to muddy the water to make it look deep. They don't want the American people to know the truth. Because for these people to which I'm referring, truth is a concept that does not interest them. Politics does. Now, there's been a lot of controversy in and around the United States Senate for the last 2 weeks. If we're honest with ourselves, we have to admit that the Senate has been functioning like a broken arm with the bone sticking out. That's not anybody's fault, in my judgment, on my side of the aisle. It's certainly not the majority leader's fault. So I want to try to refocus us on the issue. I don't really want to talk about the ballroom or the anti-weaponization fund, or any of the myriad of issues that my Democratic friends have tried to inject into our discussion. I want to talk about the issue. And the issue is this: are we going to fund the Department of Homeland Security, or are we not? Part of DHS, as we call it, as you know, Mr. President, is funded. But a very important part is not. The Border Patrol and ICE. We're paying them as best we can out of another pool of funds that's about to run out of money. Why are they not funded? Because my Democratic colleagues have refused. At one point, my Democratic friends agreed to fund Border Patrol and ICE. And then they changed their mind. And they said, no, we're not going to do it. Which forced Republicans, if we want to see that portion of DHS funded, to proceed under what we call reconciliation, where we don't need Democratic votes. I regret that that's the case, but we're doing what we have to do. Why are we having this controversy? I don't get it completely. I don't. Unless your industrial strength stupid, you know that illegal immigration is illegal. And that's what our Border Patrol agents and ICE agents do. They enforce the law. And we have a problem with respect to immigration. During the Biden administration, with the encouragement of some, not all, but with the encouragement of some, but not all, Democrats, opened the borders. They said, come on in. And about 8 to 12 million, some say 20 million people did. Some of them were good people and are good people. They're still breaking the law. Some of them who are here are not. They're rapists, and they're murderers, and they're sex traffickers, and they're drug dealers, and they're pedophiles. We don't know which is which. We don't know where they are. And it falls to the responsibility of the Department of Homeland Security, in part through Border Patrol and ICE, to find out. Now, why did this happen? Why do we now need Border Patrol and ICE more than ever? You know, I've thought about that a lot. It could be just pure, plain, vanilla incompetence. It could be that the people that President Biden put in charge of immigration and securing the border were not qualified to play dead in a Western movie. It also could be and could have been intentional. I think some of my Democratic friends, not all of them, I'm talking the Plattner wing of the Democratic Party, the Mayor Mamdani wing of the Democratic Party, the Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez wing of the Democratic Party, the wing of the Democratic Party that's in control. Some of them believe that vetting people at the border is racist. They do. Doesn't matter that every other country in the world, the border is racist. There are other folks who support open borders for political reasons. I think they honestly think that if they admit a bunch of people into America in violation of the immigration laws or not, that it's a rich source of potential voters. We're not supposed to say that, but I really do believe that. Not much happens around here that doesn't have a political bent to it. But regardless, we have a problem. And that's what we have to deal with. And that's what we're going to be voting on, I hope, in the next couple of days. If you disagree with the law, this is America. You're entitled to disagree with it. I get it. Try to change it. Go change it. But you can't just ignore our immigration laws. They're not some second-tier statutes that you can ignore without consequence, that you can ignore when you think it's convenient. They're the law, and we have to enforce the law. And more to the point, we have to clean up the mess that President Biden and some of my Democratic colleagues in the Plattner wing, the Ocasio-Cortez wing, the Mamdani wing, whatever you want to call those Democrats who believe it, created. And find more to even to that point, we have to have Border Patrol or Border Patrol and ICE officers to do it. We have to. The other point I would make, we see the pushback by this wing of my Democratic friends' party. We see what's going on in New Jersey. It's despicable. Look, you have the right to protest. That's as American as the NFL or baseball. You have the right to protest. You don't have the right to protest violently. And what we've seen at the Delaney Hall Detention Center, we've seen ICE officers and some Border Patrol officers. We've seen the protesters cursing at them and spitting at them and threatening their families and hitting them and scratching them and biting them and blocking ingress and egress in and out of the detention center. They're breaking the law. And they've been arrested. I think the Border Patrol and ICE and the state law enforcement officials in New Jersey have showed a lot of restraint. But what the protesters did, not all of them, was illegal. It was illegal. You can't hit a cop just because you don't like him. And here's a free tip. I know you know this, Mr. President. Most Border Patrol agents, most ICE agents, most cops, they will leave you alone unless you do illegal stuff. But if you do illegal stuff, they're going to enforce the law. So let me end as I began. We need to vote to fund Border Patrol and ICE. These men and women are running out of money. I am sorry that my Democratic colleagues have taken the position that they want to defund ICE. They have every right to believe that. I'm sorry that they have taken the position they want to defund the Border Patrol. My Democratic friends have every right to believe that. But they're wrong. I have the right to my opinion. And if they don't want to fund them, they need to go change the immigration laws. Until then, we've got to enforce them. And we're going to have the chance here in the next couple of days. And all we're going to be voting on, you're going to see all kind of amendments and talking about everything in the world. All we will be voting on. Do we or do we not want to fund Border Patrol and ICE? Do we or do we not want to enforce America's immigration laws in accordance with due process and the rule of law? And that's the issue that's going to be before us. And I'm ready to saddle up and ride. I'm ready to get to it. I'm tired of all the rhetoric and the tangential issues, and I'm tired of all that. Let's get after it. Let's do the right thing.
Wow, guys, that's crazy. And now take a look at Senator John Kennedy here talking about Biden letting millions into the U.S. illegally. Breaking news, my friends. Let's listen in.
Mr. Secretary, do you hate people who are different from you?
No, sir. I wake up every single morning and say, love the people, love the call.
Do you support the rule of law?
Absolutely.
Isn't a big part of your job to enforce the immigration laws?
Yes, sir, it is.
Can we agree that illegal immigration is illegal?
We should all agree on that. Yes, sir.
How many people do you think the Biden administration allowed into our country in violation of our immigration laws?
Unfortunately, they didn't keep good records. We don't even know how many kids were let into the country. Estimation is somewhere around 340,000 kids that we're trying currently to look for. With the numbers are estimated between 12 and 20 million came in illegally over the 4 years of the Biden administration.
And President Biden ignored the immigration laws with the cooperation and indeed, in some cases, the encouragement of some members of Congress, did he not?
Yes, sir. That's my recollection of it.
Why do you think the Biden administration and some of my colleagues, your former colleagues, why do you think they believe in open borders?
Sir, I have my theory behind that, and I would love to entertain the thought, but I'll try to keep my thoughts to myself and just do my job here. But I think I know my theory is pretty strong.
Well, tell me about it.
I'll probably get myself in trouble.
It's okay. You're already in.
So this is Markwayne Mullin, Secretary, Department of Homeland Security. So I think Tulsi Gabbard is no longer in the Trump administration from what I'm gathering here.
Trouble.
Yeah, but I don't know if this is a place to give my thoughts. I try to work in facts as much as I can, but it's hard to explain why they would allow that many people to come in and turn our streets into lawless cities and lawless towns.
I mean, does any other... Let me try it a different way. Do you think vetting people at our border is racist?
No, sir. It's exactly what we should do, because we're charged, CBP and Department of Homeland Security is charged with keeping our homeland safe. We have to know who's coming in. We catch terrorists on a weekly basis trying to enter this country illegally or already entered this country illegally.
Do you think vetting people at our border, it sounds like you do, is prudent?
It is absolutely vital to the job we do to protecting our homeland.
And every other country vets people at the border.
They should. Yes.
What happened at Delaney Hall?
Well, a lot of claims were made, and they just absolutely weren't true. The first one came out and said it was overcrowded. We have today, I believe, under 700 detainees there. It's licensed for just over 1,000 beds. We have twice the square footage at Delaney Hall than the state penitentiary does in New Jersey. They said that the medical condition was horrible. We have twice as much medical staff per person than the state penitentiary does in New Jersey.
What happened with the protesters?
Well, the protesters is interesting. The governor and the state officials were going out and saying that they were peaceful protesters and ICE was agitating them. That all changed when the governor finally allowed the state police to do their job. And by the way, they're professionals, and the locals there were absolutely professionals. When they came in, they quickly realized these aren't peaceful protesters. These are rioters.
Were some of the protesters or rioters violating the law?
Absolutely. Every time you verbally assault an officer by not saying that you're, whatever words you want to use, but when you say you're going to kill them and all their family, that's against the law. That's violating federal policy. When you put your hands on an officer, we had officers bit, we had officers scratched, we had officers poked, we had officers hit. We had objects thrown at them. We had car windows smashed in. All that is a federal crime and punishable, and we have zero tolerance for it. And those that we could arrest then, we did arrest. Those that we have on video, we're going through the video today, and we will eventually find you and arrest you as well and charge you.
Now, you have the right in America to protest, don't you?
I support the First Amendment, but you do it in a peaceful manner.
But you don't have the right to protest violently or in violation of the law, do you?
That's correct, Senator.
Isn't it? Last question. I know. Has it been your experience that most cops, most Border Patrol officers, most ICE agents will leave you alone unless you do illegal stuff?
And the senator's time has expired, so if you can keep this quick.
That is absolutely correct, and they love doing their job. They don't do it for the money. They do it because they're called to do it. And regardless if you're a local PD, you're a sheriff, you're state, or you're federal, all of them are willing to do their job because they feel called to do so. And you're not, for the most part, there's always a few bad apples, but for the most part, those officers, unless you're breaking the law, they're not going to bother you.
Okay.
That's my experience anyways.
Whoa, so really interesting. Obviously, this guy is getting a lot of backlash. I guess there was an exchange between Al Green, remember that guy who got kicked out? I believe it was the State of the Union or something, because he raised up his cane. He really hates Trump. But he and Markwayne Mullin got into it. Look at this. Sparks flies. Al Green tells Markwayne Mullin to shut up. Can you imagine that, guys? This same dude. Who is this guy, Al Green, and how did he actually, like, look at this. Look at this.
A racist, Mr. Secretary, would do what happened to Ruby.
Are you calling me a racist?
A racist.
I'm asking a question.
Reclaiming my time, asking him to shut up.
That's a pretty.
Shut up.
Shut up.
It's my time.
I'm not going to let
No.
anybody call me a racist, Chairman.
I never called him a racist. It's my time.
It is, gentlemen, will suspend.
You will
Gentlemen
not.
suspend.
Tell him to shut up.
Gentlemen suspend. No, the gentleman.
Dude, this guy's like, he's got a lot of anger in him. I'll give him that. Like, he has the, you know, to give him credit, he does have the patience of a 4-year-old, a 3-year-old, really. You know, if he's not, no one can ask questions when he's talking. It's like, dude, this guy's crazy. You know, this guy's next level. Holy moly. What do you guys think about Al